boots pounding on the floor and echoing off the walls. He radioed dispatch on the way, giving them an update and requesting an ambulance. When he got to the door the coach had mentioned, he shoved it open, swinging his weapon and his flashlight in a wide sweep into the darkness behind the school. He moved as cautiously as he could, but picked up the pace within a few feet. His gut shouted at him that Cassie didn't have time for him to waste being careful. From the sirens in the distance, backup was on the way, but Cassie could be dead long before they arrived. The gate that led onto the field and the bleachers was locked with a big looping chain. Brooks looked up in the darkness, wondering if the girl and the man chasing her had climbed over. The fence was at least 12 feet high with 2 strands of barbed wire atop it. He didn't know about the psycho with the knife, but there was no way the girl would have gone up and over the thing. He looked left and right, past the small ticket booths and food stands, toward the other small outbuildings and occasional row of pine trees farther along the fence line. He cursed. The girl could have gone anywhere. Brooks shone his flashlight one way, then the other, looking for some indication of which way to go. He was about to give up and pick a direction at random when a cracking sound from his left made him spin in that direction. Any country boy who'd spent time in the woods would recognize that sound. Someone had stepped on a big stick and snapped it underfoot. He headed in that direction, keeping the fence to his right as he moved toward the noise. When he rounded the corner of a small food stand, he swung his flashlight over the woods behind it. He would have missed the girl if it wasn't for the soft squeal of fear she let out as his light swept over her hiding place behind a large pine tree. Thank God. Slim, with curly red hair pulled back in a ponytail, she was huddled down on her knees in the pine needles, blood running down her leg from a deep gash in her left thigh even though she had both hands clamped over the wound. She was shaking, but Brooks couldn't tell if it was from the cool night, fear, blood loss, or combination of all three. Brooks threw a quick glance over his shoulder to check for the crazy guy with the knife, then dropped down on one knee beside the girl, checking her for other injuries while calling in their direction to dispatch and trying to keep an eye out for the psycho at the same time. "Cassie, I'm Deputy Brooks," he said when he got off the radio. "I'm going to get you out of here, but I need to know where the guy who hurt you is." She sniffed and shook her head. "I don't know. When I ran over here to hide, he was right behind me, but then he just disappeared." Brooks looked around again, but there was no sign of the maniac with the knife. Maybe the sirens had scared the guy away. From the chatter streaming across his radio, it was obvious the other first responders weren't going to make that same assumption. He could hear his shift supervisor calling out orders to establish a perimeter, for 3 officer teams to move in and start methodically clearing the school, and for EMS to maintain their position outside the barricades. Cassie moaned and rested her forehead against the tree she was still kneeling behind. Despite the chill in the air, she was soaked with sweat, and her face was pale. Cursing silently, he shoved his weapon in its holster. The girl didn't have time to wait for EMS. She was bleeding out by the second. "Hey," he said softly, resting his hand on her shoulder. "Stay with me, okay?" When she nodded, he continued, "Can you try to hold my flashlight so you can guide us out of here while I carry you?" She took one trembling hand away from her bloody leg to take the flashlight. "I think so." Picking her up in his arms, Brooks quickly started back the way he'd come. By the time he reached the main sidewalk heading to the gym, he was almost running. His heavy boots pounded loudly on the concrete as he raced to get the girl to the paramedics, which was probably why he didn't hear the second set of footsteps until it was too late. He jerked his head toward the sound in time to see a huge man hurtling out of the darkness, the dim moonlight coming through the trees glinting off the edge of a blade. Time slowed, and for reasons that didn't make a lot of sense, Brooks found himself taking in every detail of the big man. The long, wild hair, the maniacal grin.